Hello and welcome to Momma Myung's Kitchen. I'm Myung Kim. Thank you for joining me. Today I would like to share with you my version of the ever-popular California rolls. You might ask how sushi relates to Korean cuisine. The answer to that is that Korea was occupied by the Japanese from 1910 to 1945. They were required to learn the language as well as adopt some of its cuisine and its culture. But today, we are going to be doing the Americanized version of sushi. These are all the ingredients that you're going to need to make California rolls. Of course, one of the main ingredients is the nori, and you have to be very careful that you don't get something that is too thick or too thin. If it's too thick, it's going to be chewy, and if it's too thin, it can break apart. I also use short-grained rice, which I use almost daily in my Korean cuisine, but this is actually the same kind of rice that's used for sushi. And the crab sticks, I use this brand, the Osaki brand, and it is probably a little more expensive than some others, but I would recommend that you use this because this is actually much tastier and you don't want to skimp on this particular ingredient. Here I have the wasabi, which is a powdered horseradish, and it is a potent seasoning. One of the other main ingredients is, of course, avocados, and I purchased these several days before while they were green and let them ripen at room temperature for about 3 days. And you know they're ready when they turn brown, and also when you press on it that there is a little bit of give, but you don't want it to be squishy. And once they're ripened, you put it in the refrigerator until you're ready to use it. I like to use Kirby cucumbers. They happen to be crunchier, a little sweeter, and I like to use these because they are also part of the Korean cuisine, and we use this kind of cucumber over the big, long, fatter ones. Here we have the rice seasoning, which is vinegar-based, and we're going to put this into the rice once the rice is cooked. I like to use Korean sesame seeds, and you'll see how I use it when we start making and rolling the sushi. And then, of course, we have the sushi soy sauce, and we're going to mix in the wasabi with it later on. The very first thing we need to do is to prepare the rice so that it has enough time to cook and cool off before we can work with it. To make 7 to 8 sushi rolls, I make 4 cups of rice. I use a rice cooker, which makes it so much easier. You can use almost any other method that's familiar to you, but as long as you follow the appropriate directions. I think the rice is ready, and I'm going to unplug it. While the rice is still hot, I use the powdered sushi flavoring, and I use about 2 teaspoons full, but of course it's really up to you how much you want to add. Whether it's more or less depends on your preference, that you'll have a slightly sweet and sour flavor, and you don't want to overpower the rice. We are going to leave the lid open and let the steam rise up and cool off for a little bit. And then when it's adequately cooled off, we're going to close the lid and prepare all of the other ingredients. I like to use Kirby cucumbers, and for our purposes for California rolls, we're going to do the same thing as we usually do, which is to peel the cucumber. I use a little over 1 whole cucumber. The best way to skin and prepare an avocado, there are different methods, but the one that I use is to slice in half until you get to the seed. Cut into the seed, you rotate it, and then that will separate very easily. Then I cut them into quarters. Once I do that, then I'm able to peel off the skin. Once you've peeled the avocado, then you can begin to slice. And I use a width at the fattest point about my pinky's width. And I use a little over, maybe about 1 1/4 avocados. So here I have the crab sticks. I have about 7 of them. It's still a little bit frozen, but that's okay. As we start to work and make the rolls, they will start to melt. I will cut it in half. So it's actually better if they're a little bit firm so that they don't fall apart. I also use Korean roasted sesame seeds. We'll put, about 3 tablespoons in this little bowl. You can purchase wasabi pre-made in a tube, but I like to make it myself. This comes in a powdered form, and I'm going to be adding boiling water. And I also like to make it a little creamy so that I can spread it over the rice as I make the California rolls. And when we are ready to mix it with the soy sauce, it mixes very readily. So I take a spoonful of the wasabi. It's your personal choice as to the proportion of wasabi to soy sauce. Creamy wasabi, as you can see, dissolves much more readily in the soy sauce, unlike the hard lumps that you get in the restaurants. Now that we have all the ingredients prepared, we're ready to make the roll. So let's take out the sheet of nori. I'm going to place the nori on this tray. You'll notice that there's a shiny side and a rough side. The smooth side goes down and the rough side faces upward. We're going to take the rice paddle and take, a dollop or 2 of rice, and then spread it around. I use a fork, also wet that a little bit, and spread it around. You don't have to cover every surface of the nori. There can be a little bit of space between the kernels, but not a big gap. So I take the wasabi, I dip my chopstick, and I make a little line smear the rice with the wasabi. Again, it's up to you how much wasabi you want to apply, but I just like a little smear. Next comes the cucumbers. The crab sticks, avocado. Now look how pretty that looks, green, pink, green. And then the sesame seed, we make a little line. And as you can see, the ingredients are placed about 1/3 of the way from the edge. I fold it over and put pressure at each point, and then continue to press on it so that you get rid of the lumps. And there you go. With the finished California roll, you want to make sure you have a very sharp knife. If it starts to stick, you might want to use a damp cloth to wipe away the sticky rice.
Thanks, Myung. This looks great. How many rolls did you end up making?
There were probably about 8 rolls.
Wow, that's quite a lot out of that recipe.
Yeah, that's probably about 64 pieces because there's about 8 pieces per roll. Now that is a lot of California rolls.
Well, this looks great.
Well, next time I think we can start adding other ingredients such as raw fish, whether it's tuna or salmon. We've got a lot of options, and now that we have the base recipe, you can add almost anything you'd like.
Okay, let's toast with all that work that you put in. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good, yeah.
Yeah, it turned out pretty well.